we are going to write our comparative essay. We are comparing two mummy discoveries. So we would have the excerpt, Baby Mammoth Mummy Frozen in Time, excerpt, Discovering the Inca Ice Maiden, My Adventures in Ampato. What challenge did the discoverers face? How did these challenges affect their decision about what to do with the mummies? Then you'll be using details from both articles. And it gives you just a rewriting here. Describe the challenges the discoverers faced. Explain how the challenges affected their decisions about what to do with the mummies. Use details from both articles to support your response. Now, I also have a graphic organizer there that you guys can start working on. Well, we can either do this together or you can pause and come back. And then when we finish, you'll pause and come back and we'll look at our final essays together. So when we are gathering our evidence, who made the discovery? In Inca, it's going to be, this one's our different one. So, in Mammoth, Yuri. So we have Yuri and his sons. That's who is our discovery in Mammoth. And then in our mummy with the Inca Ice Maiden, we have a doctor and his climbing partner, Dr. Johann Reinhard. So what was discovered? Here, a baby mammoth. Here, an Inca Ice Maiden. Well, a young mummy girl. Now, what challenge did they face? You could say similar challenges, both remote locations, except I would almost say the mountain was more remote than even in Siberia. So we had Siberia, and then in Inca, we had a South American, where was this? The volcano Nevada Ampato. So that was the other one. So South America, and then we have Siberia. And when we say the challenges that they faced, well, Yuri's got stolen, which was certainly messed up. But they also, we could say Miguel and the doctor also were worried that someone would steal it, even though no one had stolen it from when they came. So I don't know. They're saying, oops, wait, I messed up our page. Wait. A girl remembered, we looked straight at a young girl. She was frozen. I wondered what to do next. If we left the mummy behind in the open, the sun and volcano ash would cause further damage. Climbers might find her and take her and the artifacts as souvenirs to sell. So both stories had the pieces of the mummies trying to be used for a sale, right? Wait, where's our mummy one? Because here it ends up in a place people are taking cell phone pictures, right? It was in a store, like a town store. So, and then in the end, this baby mammoth gets to a researcher, but the Ice Maiden, she does not yet. So then you would pick a quote. We went over a few that you could use. And then what did the discoverer decide to do? So Yuri gets it to the researcher, and the Ice Maiden, the doctor, and Miguel, they decide that they're going to get it off this mountain themselves, which that's a challenge in of itself, because keeping it perfectly preserved, if it's really old like this, it could fall apart. Why did they make that final decision? Well, he pretty much knew from the beginning that this was something important. And something else about Yuri, he wasn't going to touch it because of this belief that you're not supposed to touch, they have a powerful Nenet mythology. So they were the beasts of the underground. So that's something you could also add. They looked at the baby man uncertain what to do. Yuri decided to seek the advice of a trusted friend who had lots of experience in Arctic as an expedition outfitter. So he knew it was important and sought out help. And then the doctor here, if we left the mummy, thoughts rush through my mind. It could take weeks, if not months, to get a government permit. He's basically stealing it. I decided that I should try to carry the mummy and the statues down the mountain. So the difference in here, Dr. Jonan just decides to take it and do it himself, whereas Yuri sought help. But either way, they both knew they had something important. So when we're talking about how they're different, all these reasons, we could say in this story, it was a different finding. So here we have an Inca Ice Maiden girl. In the mummy, mammoth mummy, we have a mammoth. So that could be different. And then one, Yuri is just someone who randomly, like, he's not a scientist or a doctor, but he still knows it's important. You could also say the settings. One is on top of a mountain, and then this is in a plateau in Siberia, Russia. So different settings, different findings, different people, same idea that they're important and they have to get somewhere. So the next thing you could do is plan your essay. So in your introduction, you want to name both articles, their author, and briefly introduce what each is about. And then end with a sentence that tells the reader your main point. So basically your main point is how you're going to answer the question. So this is kind of like a thesis. So basically you could really just be saying both stories. You could say in each story, an ancient finding was discovered. Something ancient was discovered, or a mummy was discovered. And the finders had to figure out what to do. Something about how each story dealt with a mummy finding and had challenges with getting the mummy to a safe location. So then whatever you want to say here, however you want to say the stories are alike, and then how they're slightly different, because in body paragraph 1, you're going to say what happened in the mammoth, the baby mammoth. Or you could, so we do what happened in baby mammoth. You're giving a very brief summary, not a summary per se. You really just want to focus on the challenges. So you could say one of Yuri's challenges, they were not supposed to touch these mammoth creatures because of their cultural beliefs. Or you could also say, in the process of getting it to a safe location, it was stolen. And then for paragraph 2, they find the mummy, and although there is no one stealing the mummy, they worry the same thing could happen. So they have to figure out what they're going to do, and they have to make a difficult decision. What are they going to do with this mummy? Well, they're going to take it down the mountain. And then when you wrap it up, you could give a summary of each paragraph you talked about. You want to talk about in baby mammoth. You're going to have to say this term, baby mammoth mummy, like a bunch of times. And also the Inca Maiden. But if you say it full once in the intro, you could shorten it, okay? But still putting it in quotations. Baby mammoth or quotation Inca Ice Maiden. So you're going to summarize what you said in each article. And then a closing. You could add an analysis to it, like, findings like these are important even to researchers today, or looking into the past is always something that humans want to do. Making like a kind of inference or summarizing statement that people are always interested in mummies. You could end it in some way like that. So now if you want to pause, and you can fill out this graphic organizer, and when you fill this out, once you're done, if you write it in complete sentences, then you just have to paste your sentences into your Word document. Or if you're writing it, you can just try to write it in complete sentences, then you could type it up. So everything that you put in the graphic organizer, you want to put in your essay. But the things that we put up here, those were just for you to think about. These didn't have to be in complete sentences. So the graphic organizer, if you do it in complete sentences, it'll make it easier for your final paragraphs, because you want 4 paragraphs. And then we'll go back and I will go over mine. So for my comparative essay here, I have an excerpt from Discovering the Inca Ice Maiden by Johan Reinhard. I'm not saying his name, Johan Reinhard. And excerpt from Baby Mammoth Mummy by Christopher Sloan. Both characters, I might say both people, make significant ancient discoveries. Because technically these were real people, not characters. Both people make significant, I could actually say people make ancient scientific discoveries. Then I'll say, however, in Baby Mammoth Mummy, now notice I shortened it, a nomadic tribesman named Yuri finds a preserved baby mammoth in the permafrost of Serbia. His problems arise when other villagers realize the value of the baby mammoth. In in discovering the Inca Ice Maiden. Two climbers find a preserved female Inca mummy on top of a mountain. They realize how important the discovery is and worry what could happen if they leave the mummy on the mountain. While the discoveries in each article face different challenges, each discoverer was dedicated to finding a safe home for the preserved scientific finds. So it basically gave a short, very, very short summary of both texts in my intro. When you're doing an essay, your introduction is supposed to be the longest paragraph, because if in a good introduction you say what you need to say summarizing each text, and even if you weren't doing a comparison essay, so if you were just doing one story, you summarize your text, and then in the body paragraphs you're making your analysis or proving your point, proving your claim. So for this is our claim, that discoverers in each article face different challenges. So now all we have to do is show that. So here I'm repeating the part about him being a nomadic farmer, come across a preserved mammoth in Siberia, and is now familiar with the science behind saving the mammoth for researchers. Yuri goes to get someone who can help. However, he faces a challenge. Now remember, the question said what challenges are faced. So if they ask about the challenges, I'm going to try to use that word multiple times. When the mammoth is stolen by his cousin and sold in a grocery store so patrons can take photos with it. So now, if you notice here, I did say it was his challenge arises when other villagers realize the value. And then here, I'm giving a detail. So this proves my point here that he had a challenge, because now we find out that they were charging to take photos with it. This is a challenge because Yuri must negotiate to get the mammoth back. He does this because he realizes researchers will find great value in his discovery. So that would be a ending for the body paragraph. You could have a lot of different answers here. It does not have to read like mine. But we said, how did the challenges affect their decision? So there, we're saying he does this because he realizes the researchers will find great value. So that's what his challenge, why he did it. Then, the discoverers in Inca Ice Maiden didn't face the same challenge of having their discovery stolen, but they did have those same worries. The discoverers were also worried that a volcanic eruption on the mountain could destroy the Inca mummy. Therefore, the discoverers made the same decision as Yuri, in the sense that they rescued the mummy. The author in Inca Ice Maiden ends the article with the following line: I decided that we should try to carry the mummy and the statues down the mountain. This shows that the discovery was very important to Joan and Reinhard, and because it would have been dangerous to carry these extra items down the mountain. So here I'm just saying this was his final decision. What decision did he make? What influenced it? Well, he was influenced by the fact it was so important. And now in my closing, I'm going to summarize. This is kind of giving my own opinion, really. Well, not too much, but I say in both articles, the individuals who discovered the preserved mummies both immediately recognized the importance of their discoveries. Each faced different challenges in the fact Yuri actually had his discovery stolen by his own cousin, while the South American climbers only worried that their discovery could be stolen. Each character in both articles made the ultimate decision to get their mummies to a safe location, no matter how much of an inconvenience the task proved. So, I might also say, instead of character, I want to do another one. Each people, we'll just say people there. We'll say the people in both articles made the ultimate decision to get their mummies to a safe location, no matter how much of an inconvenience the task proved. So, I just summarized what we said very briefly. And I gave a bit here. We did say each faced a challenge. Well, here would be what I'm saying, that the reason they did it was because they realized these were important discoveries. And if you notice, I use the word from our written responses in paragraphs 1 and 2 when it was, or in lessons 1 and 2 about these, when the short response, when they were asking, what is the significance of the mummy? So here, I'm using it here. Both people, preserved mummies, both immediately recognized the importance of the discoveries. So, how are these stories similar? that the people that discovered the baby mammoth and the Inca Ice Maiden, they immediately knew that these discoveries were important to science. So you could also talk about that in your essay. If you wanted to talk about why these discoveries were both important to science, you could do that as well, saying how is the here you could say it was so important that researchers wanted it at this museum place. And then that could also show why it was a challenge or why it was important. So we have what challenges did they face? Anything about it being stolen, anything about them being in remote locations. You could have a lot of different answers to why this was challenging. There can be many, as long as you're providing details from your text to show why. And you don't always have to have a quote. So here, I didn't have a quote exactly, but here I used a quote. You don't have to use a quote, but you can. That can help. But then remember, you want to explain it. So this would be our comparison essay for Inca Ice Maiden and Baby Mammoth Mummy.